Welcome, the new video. In this recap, in the Harlem neighborhood of Manhattan, there is a legendary basketball court called Rucker Park. Several famous NBA players were discovered there, but one of them was considered the best of them all, Uncle Drew. Fans admired his skill, but everything started to fall apart when the player became involved in controversy. Headlines revealed that Uncle Drew was dating his teammate's girlfriend one day before the Rucker championship final. To make matters worse, when the big game came around, Uncle Drew disappeared without a trace, becoming a legend in the region. Today, Dax, a basketball coach, is trying to win the Rucker championship with his team, the Harlem Money. His hopes are pinned on a talented young player named Casper Jones. However, during training, Mookie, Dax's former rival and a hugely successful coach, shows up. In the past, Dax tried his hand at a career as a player, but during a high school game, he had a shot blocked by Mookie, leading his team to defeat. Since then, Dax has been trying to build a career as a coach and divides his time as an attendant at a sneakers store. As if that weren't bad enough, Mookie threatens to take Casper to his team, but Dax does his best to please him. He even spent all his savings at the store where he works, buying new sneakers for the player and his friends. However, when he goes for another day of training, Dax meets Mookie again, who says he has negotiated with Casper to join his team. Dax is furious because he spent everything he had on the player and, in an act of recklessness, he tries to take back the sneakers he gave him as a gift. This soon makes headlines in the newspapers, and Dax is left without his star player and completely broke. Upon learning about the incident, his girlfriend, Jess, ends the relationship and kicks him out of the house, as he never helped with the expenses and now his coaching career is over. With nowhere to go, Dax meets up with some friends at the barbershop and says he is looking for new players. However, the old barber advises him to look for Uncle Drew, as he is the only one who can help him put together a winning team. Dax believes that the old player is just a legend and decides to look for new players on his own. He then goes to several courts in the city, but none of the players believe in his potential as a coach and refuse the offer. Having lost hope, Dax goes to another court, where he hears an unknown old man criticizing the players on the court. He starts saying that young people today have no discipline, which angers one of the players, who challenges the old man to a game. The man accepts and promises that if the young player wins, he will never set foot on the court again. With everything settled, the game begins and the old man can barely move, giving the player the chance to score a point, followed by a three-pointer. On the third shot, the old man surprises everyone by taking the ball from the player and scoring his first point. Not satisfied, he also makes a three-point shot and tells the player that basketball is not just about physical fitness, but also about focus. To end the challenge, the old man scores another three-pointer, leaving everyone in shock, especially Dax. He is curious to know who the guy is when he hears someone call him Uncle Drew. Upon hearing this name, Dax rushes to talk to the old player, saying he wants his help to put together a team and compete in the Rucker tournament. Uncle Drew agrees with the idea, as it could be a chance to play on his old court and teach young people about the art of basketball. However, the old man warns that he will choose the team and tells Dax that the first player is in Washington. The two then get into Uncle Drew's old van and continue their journey until they arrive at a church, just as the pastor is baptizing a baby. But before completing the blessing, the man begins to move the child around as if it were a basketball. It is then revealed that the pastor's name is Preacher, an old colleague of Uncle Drew's, and that he will be the first to be called up for the team. However, Dax doesn't like the way the guy is holding the child and tells him to stop. But Preacher's wife, Betty Lou, tells him that it took a long time to organize the baptism and tells him to leave. In the middle of the argument, Preacher recognizes Uncle Drew, who invites him to play with them in the Rucker tournament. The old player readily accepts, but Betty Lou forbids him, as he almost had an accident during the games and now has an obligation to the church and his community. Preacher then gives up on the game, but minutes later, he sneaks out of the church and runs to Uncle Drew's van. The three then set off to find more players, but Betty Lou follows them down the road, holding a baseball bat. She threatens to break the car's rearview mirror, but Uncle Drew speeds through a red light and gets away. Once they've gotten some distance, the group stops at a gas station, and while Preacher goes to the bathroom, Uncle Drew practices with his ball, demonstrating great skill despite his advanced age. Dax asks how he does it, and the old man says that since his playing days, he has always considered the basketball his best friend. He then throws it to Dax and asks if he has ever tried to be a professional player. Although that was his biggest dream, Dax is embarrassed and lies to Uncle Drew, saying he always wanted to be just a coach and nothing more. After filling up the car, the trio continues their journey and arrives at a nursing home to look for Wilburn, known as Lights. Once there, they discover that he has gone to the arcade, where he usually practices his shots in a basketball game. However, upon reuniting with his old friend, Uncle Drew sees Lights shooting several balls in a row without making a single basket. Dax believes they have come looking for the wrong guy, as the man can barely see, but Lights is happy to see his old teammates again. Upon learning the reason for their visit, he also agrees to return to the courts and says that another player on the team, known as Boots, is also at the nursing home. Lights then introduces Maya, Boots' granddaughter, to the group, and the two take the group to see him. However, the news is not good, as the old player is in a wheelchair, having abandoned the sport after being diagnosed with schizophrenia. Even so, Uncle Drew throws a ball toward his old friend, who, despite his condition, catches it in the air without difficulty. He then invites him to join the team, but Maya warns that the nursing home does not allow him to leave under any circumstances. Uncle Drew insists on taking his friend with him and tells Dax that, as the team's coach, he needs to come up with a plan to sneak Boots into the car. With no other choice, he agrees and gathers everyone, including Maya, inside the van to explain his plan. Dax shows his drawing with the hospital map and tells everyone what they must do to bring the old player along hidden. As soon as he explains his plan, someone knocks on the van door, revealing to be none other than Boots. In the end, the old man managed to go unnoticed by the nurses, and now everyone can continue their journey to find the last player. Halfway there, Maya is delighted to see her grandfather smile for the first time in years. She also thanks Dax for bringing the team together for the championship, even though she knows their chances of winning are slim. Dax is happy to hear this, but the truth is that he is betting everything on this game for a chance to pursue his career as a coach. Finally, Uncle Drew sends Dax to a karate gym to find his former teammate, Big Fella. However, this is the same player who was betrayed by Uncle Drew in the past, and since he gave up basketball, he has become a martial arts master. Still, Uncle Drew decides to talk to him alone and finds him teaching a class of children. As soon as the class ends, Uncle Drew goes to talk to him, but in response, Big Fella knocks him down with a blow to the head, showing that he is still resentful of what he did. Dax and the others rush to help him, and Dax tries to calm the situation, promising Big Fella he can do whatever he wants with Uncle Drew. In return, he must help them win the Rucker Championship, and with these conditions, the guy agrees to participate. After that, everyone returns to the van, but just ahead, Betty Lou's car appears, ready to take her husband back to church. With no time to lose, Uncle Drew tells everyone to get in the car and sees that Lights is in the driver's seat. Even without being able to see properly, he steps on the gas, but the lunatic had left the car in reverse and drives in the opposite direction. Betty Lou accelerates and follows the van closely, but despite not being able to see properly, Lights demonstrates unusual skill behind the wheel. Driving in reverse, he manages to reach the road and, in one quick movement, he makes a dangerous turn and continues straight ahead. Thanks to this, the group manages to lose Betty Lou and leaves to make another stop at a gas station. There, Dax sees another coach accompanying a high school girls team and suggests challenging them to a game. Without telling the team, he makes a bet with the coach, worth $100 to whoever wins. The guy accepts and everyone gathers on a field near the track to play a game. As Dax feared, Uncle Drew and the others can't keep up with the players, who start scoring points against the team. With one basket left for them to win, Dax calls everyone into a meeting and reveals the bet he made. He says he no longer has money to fill up the car and needs to win back the money, or none of them will make it to the championship in time. The team then returns to the field, but on the last play of the game, the girls are faster and score the winning point. Because of this, Dax is forced to pay the coach $100, but Uncle Drew says he has collected the money from his colleagues and fills up the car. The group then heads back to Rucker Park, and Dax thanks him for the gesture, but he is still unsure if they will actually be able to play. Finally, they arrive at the court, and Uncle Drew takes the opportunity to give gifts to all his friends. He gives Lights a pair of special glasses, which allow him to finally see and shoot a three-pointer. Uncle Drew then gives Preacher a crucifix, which he gave him years ago as a gift so that he would never lose his way. As for Boots, he gives him his old pair of shoes as a reminder of the old days playing together. As soon as he puts on the sneakers, Boots gets up from his wheelchair, grabs the ball, and runs to the basket, scoring a point and impressing everyone. Finally, it's Big Fella's turn, and Uncle Drew gives him a gold trophy they won in a doubles tournament. The two were great friends in their teens, but Big Fella still holds a grudge for what happened and, in addition to throwing the trophy on the ground, he leaves the court. The next day, it's time for the big competition at Rucker Park. Before going to the court, Dax goes to talk to Jess to try to reconcile, only to find out that she is dating Mookie. Despite his anger at seeing his rival with his ex, Dax just picks up his team's uniforms at her house and leaves. Hours later, the championship games begin, with the first match being Mookie's team, home court advantage, led by Casper. As expected, the team wins easily and moves up one spot in the competition. Later, it's Dax's team's turn, but most of the spectators leave the stands. Things only get worse when Big Fella doesn't show up on the court and Dax suspects he won't be coming. The referee is about to announce the start of the game, but luckily, Big Fella shows up and the team is ready to face their first opponent, the Parkside Hustlers. As soon as the game starts, Uncle Drew tries to advance into the opponent's area, but is stopped by Big Fella. The guy demands that they settle their differences right there on the court, forcing Dax to call a timeout before they disrupt the game even more. The coach tells them to settle their problems off the court, because now they need to play like a real team. After the break, the game resumes and the opposing team takes a 5-point lead on the scoreboard. However, it doesn't take long for Uncle Drew to show his talent and score his first point. In the next few minutes of the game, the old player increases the score for Harlem Money, but Uncle Drew plays almost alone, not passing the ball to any of his teammates. Even with victory within reach, Big Fella is enraged by the player's attitude and prevents him from scoring another point. He then demands that Uncle Drew apologize for what he did, at least once, but the old man refuses, saying he doesn't even remember the girl they both went out with. This only makes Big Fella even more angry and reveals that this girl was the same one he married years later. Despite the argument, the game ends with a victory for Harlem Money, but Preacher goes to talk to Uncle Drew, warning him that if he wants to continue playing, he needs to settle his accounts with Big Fella. So, the next morning, Uncle Drew goes looking for his old friend and finds him at the cemetery. Big Fella is standing in front of the grave of his late wife, Jennifer, with whom he lived most of his life until her perishment 2 years ago. Upon learning the truth, Uncle Drew apologizes to his friend for what he did and confesses that, like him, he also loved Jennifer. However, this mistake caused him to lose his best friend, and he assures him that he would do everything differently if he could. Finally, Big Fella accepts his apology, but warns him that if they want to have a chance of winning the competition, Uncle Drew needs to play as a team. The old man agrees to do so, and the two return to the field, where they await the next game. While watching the other games, Uncle Drew meets the old barber, who is happy to see the player back in action. He takes the opportunity to ask what Uncle Drew is going to do with the $100,000 prize money. The old man didn't know about this prize and begins to suspect that Dax was only using him to get the money. He then confronts the coach, saying that he was playing for the love of the sport, not for money. In response, Dax reveals that he loves basketball more than anything, but the sport did not return that love. He acknowledges that he did not have enough talent and all he had left was to try his luck as a coach. Upon hearing these words, Uncle Drew believes in Dax's love for the sport and promises to help him win the competition. The team then heads to the court, where they will play their next game against the Dream Killers. This time, Uncle Drew gives up on individual plays and gives Big Fella, Preacher, Lights, and even Boots a chance to score points in the game. After another victory, the group goes to celebrate at a nightclub, but when they see the team of veterans, the young people begin to mock them. Boots doesn't like this at all, and in addition to getting up from his wheelchair, he calls Lights and the two start dancing on the dance floor. The young people then challenge them to a dance-off, but with the help of Big Fella, Preacher, and Uncle Drew, they win over the audience with their moves. After this victory, Dax and Maya go to the bar and start talking alone. Maya tells him about her grandfather and how she likes to spend time with her family, while Dax was abandoned by his parents as a child and was constantly moving from house to house. Maya is moved by his story and tells him that now he has a new family with his basketball team. She is also very grateful that he brought the team back together, and throughout the night, the two grow closer and closer, until Dax takes the initiative to kiss Maya. The young woman is almost responding, but the man ends up backing off and says it's time to go. Dax then goes to meet up with the group, who are watching everything from afar, and Uncle Drew warns him that, from experience, one should never miss opportunities like that. Another day of competition passes and the Harlem Money score another victory against the Uptown Crush, driving the crowd wild. However, as soon as the game ends, Big Fella starts to feel ill and collapses unconscious on the floor. Paramedics quickly administer first aid and take him to the hospital, where Big Fella recovers from cardiac arrest. The group goes there to see how he is doing, and without their fifth player, they cannot continue in the competition. Suddenly, Betty Lou shows up at the hospital and, after learning of her husband's performance in the game, she agrees to let him play. Not only that, she offers to be the fifth player, revealing that she was also a professional in her youth. With the team reunited once again, Dax decides to change the name to Harlem Buckets, as his focus is on the game, not the money. Finally, the night of the championship final arrives, which will be against Mookie's team, alongside their star player, Casper. Minutes pass and the Harlem Buckets still haven't arrived, which makes the audience suspect that they have given up on the game. However, everyone hears the sound of a car engine and, soon after, Uncle Drew's van appears, bringing his team to compete in the grand final. With everyone on the court, the referee blows the whistle and the game begins, with Preacher catching the ball and passing it to Uncle Drew, who attempts a shot but misses. Casper takes advantage of the slip and, with the ball in play, runs to the opponent's area and dunks the ball in the basket, scoring the first point of the game. The Harlem Buckets don't give up and continue to pass the ball, with Betty Lou showing her talent and scoring 3-point shots. Despite this, Big Fella's absence leaves the area defenseless, and Casper uses this to his advantage to score several consecutive points. At the end of the second half, the home court advantage wins 60-44, which only makes a comeback even more difficult. Meanwhile, Big Fella wakes up in the hospital and tries to watch the game on TV, but the remote control doesn't work. Even with little clothing, the player goes to the waiting room and tunes the TV to the channel because he wants to see his team play anyway. Back at Rucker Park, the third quarter begins and again, Casper starts scoring points and Dax tells the team to strengthen their defense. Then, as soon as Casper attempts another offensive play, Betty Lou takes the ball and attempts a 3-point shot. The ball ends up hitting the rim, but Uncle Drew takes advantage of the rebound and dunks it, narrowing the score for the Harlem Buckets. Mookie starts to get nervous and Casper rushes to make another offensive play, but ends up missing the basket. Boots then recovers the ball and, with his technique, he dribbles past the players and scores another point for his team. After several plays, the two teams reach the final quarter, with a score of 70-77 for Mookie's team. The game becomes increasingly tense, but thanks to shots by Betty Lou, Uncle Drew, and Lights, they manage to narrow the gap, bringing the score to 97-99. In a decisive play, Casper runs toward the basket, but Lights blocks him and they both fall to the ground. With this accident, they are taken out of the game, and even without his best player, Mookie decides to take Casper's place. As for the Harlem Buckets, there are no players to replace Lights, and everything indicates that victory will go to the rival team. However, Uncle Drew suggests that Dax take Lights' place, but he refuses, as he has never been a good player and will only embarrass the team. Drew then advises him not to let one mistake determine his whole life, as he did for so long. Upon hearing these words, Dax agrees to play, as he has a score to settle with Mookie. Then, with just over a minute left in the game, the teams take the court and the referee authorizes the throw-in. Without wasting any time, Mookie receives the pass and Dax tries to mark him, but his rival deflects and scores a 2-point basket. With only 40 seconds left, Uncle Drew passes the ball to Preacher, who also scores a 2-point basket and narrows the score. Time is running out, and Mookie delays the pass, just to end the game without giving the Harlem Buckets a chance to turn the game around. Dax gets tired of this and manages to take the ball from him, but as soon as he approaches the basket, he hesitates and calls for a timeout. Everyone then returns to the bench and Dax passes a new play to the team, with Uncle Drew and Betty Lou working together to make a 3-point shot. However, the whole team rejects the plan, as this is Dax's moment and he is the one who should score this point. The timeout ends and the team returns to the court, with Uncle Drew passing to Dax. Just as in the past, Mookie runs to take the ball from Dax, but in a surprise move, he dodges and shoots. Everyone watches the play tensely, until the ball hits the basket and Dax scores 3 points, securing the victory for the Harlem Buckets. The team celebrates this heroic point, especially Dax, who goes to Maya and, gathering his courage, kisses her. After the celebration, the Harlem Buckets go to the hospital, where they find Big Fella recovering in his room. As they talk, they watch the local news, reporting on the dramatic victory in the Rucker competition, thanks to Dax's basket. Finally, he has overcome the trauma of his past and can now fulfill his dream of making a living from basketball, together with his new family.